Hi, thanks for joining us for the USC Report. I'm Whitney Blaine, and this is Scott Wolf for InsideSoCal.com/USC. So Scott, my prediction was kind of far off. What did you think of the blowout against Washington State?
Well, first of all, I don't remember your prediction because I usually forget everything you say right after you say it, but I'll take your word for it that it was off. The game was okay. Washington State's one of the worst teams I think I've seen since I've been on the USC beat. I think Mission Viejo High School might have put up a better game last week for USC. So, USC did some good things, but it's so hard to gauge them because of the opponent. Matt Barkley threw 2 interceptions. That's a huge concern again, 2 weeks in a row. So he's got to do better. If he does that against a bad team, what's going to happen when they play a good team? So I still think there's a lot of question marks about the team, and the next 6 weeks are going to be a key stretch for them. They're going to play some good teams, and then we'll see whether this USC team is for real or not.
Well, I have a lot of question marks against Washington. How do you think USC is going to do against them?
Well, that's going to be interesting. They played pretty poorly in their first home game at the Coliseum against Virginia. So are they going to come out better this time, a little less nervous? Because some of the guys were kind of stressed out with the home crowd cheering and everything. Their first career starts at the Coliseum.
And and USC lost last year.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. Washington's kind of an enigma to me. They got blown out by Nebraska. Are they really that good? I think they'll come in here and play a little over their heads, probably because they're ashamed of that Nebraska game. And, hopefully, for 3 years I heard Pete Carroll say Jake Locker was better than Vince Young. So hopefully he'll finally have one of those games against USC. I haven't seen it yet, and I'd like to see him play better and live up to all that hype he got over the summer, which was almost insufferable, that Heisman Trophy hype.
And Monty Kiffin today said that he thinks he's better than Team Tebow at this point.
Well, every week I can quote Monty Kiffin telling you that the offense of the other team is the best in the country, or the quarterback's the best in the country.
Okay.
And the 4 teams USC's played have 2 wins combined over football subdivision teams. So, and one of those was a win over Middle Tennessee State by Minnesota without Middle Tennessee State's quarterback. So I take with a grain of salt the stuff Monty Kiffin says about the opponent each week.
Okay, well, let's talk about USC. Our offense, or USC's offense, what's going to happen? Alan Bradford didn't practice today. Do you think he's going to be in for Saturday?
I think he'll be okay. He looked all right to me, like he wouldn't miss the game. And, I don't worry too much about that because Mark Tyler's healthy, Dylan Baxter's healthy, Stanley Havili can play a little tailback. So I don't think it matters if one guy's out. They'll be fine at tailback.
Lane actually mentioned that Havili might be a two-way player. What do you think about that?
I don't really think I put too much stock in that at the moment because of the fact that if Havili hurts his shoulder, they lose their fullback. They've got a walk-on behind him. You don't want to risk him playing defense, I don't think, and hurting that shoulder again. Right. So I don't think this is going to be like Stanford where they're playing a guy 2 ways, but I'd like to see it. It would make things a little more interesting around here, certainly. And they're going to have to do that the next couple of years maybe because of the scholarship limitations that are coming.
And on the other side of the ball, the defense, USC is yet to force a fumble. What do you think needs to happen against Washington?
Well, it would be nice if they forced a fumble. But, that's an odd stat. 4 games, no forced fumbles. They've had quite a few interceptions, but no forced fumbles. So this week in practice, that was an emphasis in terms of gang tackling, trying to knock the ball loose, and see what they can do to create some turnovers, because you got to have a better turnover ratio. That kills teams. When Pete Carroll was at his best, the defense had a high turnover ratio, and when they kind of struggled a little bit, it was because they weren't creating turnovers like they used to.
And field goals, Joe Houston 1 for 4. That needs to improve.
Yeah, that definitely, to me, is a big problem right now. When you're having blowouts, it's okay to go 1 for 4 on field goals, but what's going to happen if they're tied at 13 at the Coliseum and he's going to kick a 47-yard field goal? If I'm a USC fan, I'm pretty nervous. If I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm pretty nervous. So they've got to figure out a way to improve the field goals. Right now, the special teams is pretty good. They've blocked a punt, a field goal, returned a kickoff for a touchdown, returned a punt for a touchdown. So they're doing a good job in the special teams, except for one glaring area. The field goals are terrible.
Yeah. So you think that if it was a tight game, then the field goal will make a difference. What's your prediction for the game?
It's kind of a hard game to predict because Washington played so bad against Nebraska. They couldn't play two bad games in a row like that, you would think. And then USC, you know, they aren't really covering the spread until last week. They finally did. But I think USC is probably going to win by about 10 to 12 points, right around maybe a 35-23 margin. But, you know, it does have the potential to be a nail-biter like that Virginia game if USC comes out and commits penalties, and if Matt Barkley throws a couple interceptions. You know, what's going to be important is Barkley turning the ball over, and is Jake Locker turning the ball over. He can't have any fumbles if he's running the ball. And
Barkley.
Locker, because he likes to run. So if he gets tackled and fumbles, that's going to
Barkley ran a few in practice today. You think he'll use that against Locker? Sarkisian, Kiffin, you know, offensive mind games?
I don't think they want to have Matt Barkley running too much. They want him in the pocket and throwing passes and not forcing passes.
Okay.
But Washington definitely wants, I think, Jake Locker to run around a little bit, be mobile.
You think the offenses will be that predictable?
No, I think, well, Washington's going to run some shotgun, and they'll run Locker a little bit, but I think, you know, they're not going to do anything too different than what they've done in the first few games, because, you know, they're not going to switch everything around just for one opponent, I don't think. But they have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. That's very important. So they can put in some plays that USC hasn't seen on film, because they've had 2 weeks with the bye to prepare.
Well, you said that Baxter in your blog, that Baxter, this might be his key game. Why do you say that?
I think Dylan Baxter's ready for a breakthrough, because usually a freshman, it takes 3 or 4 games. Reggie Bush, his freshman year, had a breakout game in his 4th game. So I think, you know, he missed the first game against Hawaii. He wasn't happy with the next 3 games, how he played. He wants to do a lot because he's, you know, had a lot of hype in the spring. He got a lot of attention with his breakaway runs. And I just think he's played enough now to where I think he's going to have a bigger role on Saturday, and I think he's going to have some big plays and finally show people what he's capable of doing.
Well, we'll see how the matchup plays out. We have 2 offensive coordinators playing head-to-head against Washington USC Saturday in the Coliseum. Thanks for joining us for the USC Report. I'm Whitney Blaine, and he's Scott Wolf.